Let me ask you something. Have you ever clicked a like button, scrolled through a photo gallery, or watched a cool animation on a website and just wondered, how does it do that? Well, chances are the answer is JavaScript. And today, we're going to pull back the curtain and break down how this one language literally brings the web to life. And this quote just nails it. Think about your day online. That like button you just clicked, the form you filled out, the little notification that popped up, that is all JavaScript in action. It's the invisible engine making the web a dynamic, responsive place for all of us. So, to really get a grip on where JavaScript fits in, it helps to think of a website like a person. You've got HTML, which is the skeleton. It gives the page its basic structure. Then you have CSS. That's the appearance, the clothes, the hairstyle, the colors. But JavaScript, that's the brains and the muscles. It's the part that lets the person actually move, react, and do things. It's what makes it all come alive. All right, so here's our game plan. First, we're going to nail down what JavaScript actually is. Then, we'll learn some of its basic vocabulary. After that, we'll see how it can think and make decisions, then how it actually changes a web page right before your eyes, and finally, we'll take a quick peek at how it's grown way beyond just websites. Okay, let's dive right in. What is JavaScript, really? Well, think back to our little analogy. If HTML gives you the content and CSS makes it look pretty, JavaScript is the engine that makes the whole thing go. Now, you might hear this other word floating around, ECMAScript. Don't let it throw you. All it is really is the official rulebook for JavaScript. It's the standard that makes sure your code works the same way in Chrome as it does in Firefox, keeping the web from becoming a total mess. All right, time to roll up our sleeves and actually learn the language. We're going to start with the absolute fundamentals. Think of these as the basic nouns and verbs of JavaScript. This is where it all begins. So, the single most basic idea in all of programming is the variable. The best way to think about it? It's just a labeled box. You give the box a name, like score or username, and you can put a piece of information inside it to use later on. And here's what that looks like in actual code. We use the keyword let to say, hey, I'm making a new box. We give that box the label message, and then we put the text hello world inside it. Simple, right? Now, anytime we need that phrase, we just have to call message. So what kind of stuff can we actually put in these little boxes? Well, for starters, there are three main types you'll see all the time. You have strings, which is just a fancy word for text. You have numbers, which can be whole numbers or decimals. And then you have booleans, which are basically just on or off switches. They can only ever be true or false. Okay, so we've got our words, our variables, and our data types. But that's not enough, right? We need to form sentences that can actually think. This is all about logic, and it's how we give our code the power to make decisions. This is where that brains part of our big analogy really kicks in. A conditional statement lets our program make a choice. It's as simple as this. If it's raining, then you should take an umbrella. Else, you can leave it at home. It's a basic decision based on a simple true or false condition. And in the code, it looks something like this. The program asks a simple question. Is the value inside the age box less than 12? If the answer is true, it runs the code inside those curly braces and sets the fee to 5. If the answer is false, it just skips right over it. That's it. But what if you need to do something, say, 10 times? You're not going to write 10 separate if statements. No way. That's what loops are for. A for loop is perfect for this. It has 4 parts. First, it initializes a counter, which we call I, and set to 0. Second, it checks a condition. Is I still less than 10? If it is, third, it executes the code. And finally, it runs the last statement, I++, which just means add 1 to I. Then it does the whole thing again and again until I isn't less than 10 anymore. Okay, this is the moment. This is where it all clicks into place. We've got variables to hold information, and we've got logic to make decisions. But how do we connect all of that to the actual stuff you see on a web page? Well, this is how we do it. The magic connector here is something called the DOM. It stands for Document Object Model, which sounds super complicated, but I promise the idea is simple. Just think of it as a live, interactive map of your entire web page. JavaScript can use this map to find anything, a heading, a button, you name it, and then change it right on the fly. And that map has a structure, kind of like a family tree. It all starts with the main HTML tag, which branches out into the head and the body. The body then holds all the stuff you can see, like headings and paragraphs. JavaScript can walk down these branches to find exactly the element it's looking for. So let's imagine we have this super simple piece of HTML on a page. It's a heading, and we've given it a unique name or ID of greeting. Right now, it just says hello, and without JavaScript, it will always say hello. It's completely static. But then we add one line of JavaScript. This line is basically giving the browser a command. It says, hey, look through the whole document, get the element with the ID greeting, and then change its inner content to goodbye. And bam, just like that, the text on the page updates. This is the absolute core of what makes the web dynamic. But how do we make that code run only when a user does something? That's where event listeners come in. You can think of them as triggers. You can attach a listener to a button that just sits there patiently waiting for a click event. The second the user clicks that button, the listener fires and runs whatever code you told it to. This is what makes a web page truly interactive. All right, for our last section, let's zoom out a bit, because once you get these fundamentals down, this whole other universe of incredibly powerful tools opens up. JavaScript has grown so far beyond just making text change colors on a web page. And this is just a tiny taste of that modern world. You have tools like React, Angular, and Vue that let developers build huge, complex applications. Think Facebook or Google Maps. And then there's Node.js, which was a total game changer. It let developers use JavaScript to write the code that runs on the server. For the first time ever, you could build an entire full-blown web application using just one language. So you hear these terms framework and library thrown around a lot. What's the real difference? Well, here's a great way to think about it. Using a library is like going to an auto parts store to buy pre-built car seats to put in a car you're building yourself. But using a framework, that's like getting the entire car chassis with the engine already installed. You just need to build out and customize the parts you care about. So there you have it. We've gone from a single variable all the way to the massive frameworks that build the apps you use every single day. You've now seen the basic building blocks of the interactive web. It's the language that really democratized web development and powered a whole generation of innovation. So the only real question left is, what are you going to build with it?